end of the season recap. Coach, how we doing?
Pretty good, Anthony. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for coming on. You're a good friend of the show, and we appreciate you being able to hop on with us today and talk a little bit more about Garfield basketball.
Yeah, not a problem at all today.
Well, here you are, 19-2 on the season. Your only two losses are kind of splits with conference foes who, that MVAC grade tier. I think we've said it before. You could not expect to go undefeated in that conference. It would have been really hard. It would have been a miraculous thing to do. Now that you're through that conference, what were some of your takeaways going through it night in and night out?
It's really good. You better be on your A game. We had two games this year where we had, some mental breakdowns and some slip ups, and, it ended up costing us the conference. So, you had to be locked in from the jump and every night. Really, it was, I really thought looking at the season before anything even started, you might be able to win the conference with two losses. It was that good. And then with Crestview winning it with just the one loss, it was tough. It's as tough as any conference race that I've been a part of in 16 years of coaching girls basketball and 20 plus years of coaching girls and boys.
Let's talk about that Crestview game. Obviously, it went into overtime and it didn't fall your way. And we've had a lot of people talk about how good Addison Rhodes is. I just wanted, from your perspective, you had to scout against her. You had to go up against her twice. Might be 2,000 points by the end of her career if everything goes right. What do you see out of trying to play her and trying to stop her that just makes her such a good basketball player?
I think physically she's not your typical freshman. She's got the build that she can take the wear and tear of a full high school season. Junior high, you're playing, 14, 16 games. You're probably going to be one of the bigger players out there. You're not getting banged around as much each night. And you're not getting guarded by a senior, an 17, 18-year-old girl like you are in the middle school where you're, getting guarded by somebody your same age. So it's a little bit easier easier is not the right word, but a little bit easier to stick out and dominate at the middle school level than to be able to transition that right into the high school level. And really, the first game we played them, I even think that Blatch said it where, it was a big game. It was a big environment. And I think that kind of, you could kind of see her tighten up a little bit. And then, being on the road, it's sometimes a little bit easier to be the road team because the pressure falls on the home team. The pressure falls on them to keep the crowd involved. That was our big goal when we went there, back at the beginning of January. Take the crowd out of it. Don't let them cheer because that cheer is going to fuel the players. And the game that we played, was a week and a half ago now. It was just a tremendous high school basketball game, girls or boys. It was a tremendous environment, a tremendous game, back and forth. I don't think either team got a lead bigger than 5 in regulation. And then, overtime, it ended up getting away a little bit. But, she just, every time they needed a shot, she hit it. And, hindsight's 20/20 about what we could have done. But, kudos to her for stepping up and hitting those shots when the time was needed.
There were times when it seemed like they were going to win it in regulation, but every time you needed a shot, it seemed like Laura McCoy would step up and make a big play to keep you right there. We've talked about her a lot, but now down the stretch in those kind of big games, what has she brought to that table and brought to those big game situations and those last second type of crunch time plays that she's able to make?
I think with Laura, she's a player that for 3 years, she demanded the ball. She had the ball regardless the score. She knew that the baskets were going to come through her or that she needed to go and make those baskets. And I think, with this year, with the surrounding cast, she knew still, last 30 seconds, it's on me. And it's a little bit more, I don't want to say comfortable, but it is a little bit more comfortable because you look up and you're like, okay, I've been there, done this before. Whereas, some of the other players like Addison, for example, this is the first time she's had that situation where, late game, last second stuff, it's going to go through her. Laura had those. I just think about, they got, he was up 4, and then Laura gets a huge steal and reverse layup to kind of like, okay, tighten this thing right back up. So, with her, it's just having that confidence to be like, okay, been here, done that. And, I'm going to do everything I can to get you guys the win.
How do you think he's handled the atmosphere of big games? Because LeBray never had games where they were like fighting for a conference championship per se. So you go into games with Laura McCoy where, okay, there's a lot on the line in this game. We're trying to fight for a conference championship. How do you see her handle those kind of moments?
I think that was some new territory for her, and she even made that comment a couple times just about how exciting it was to be in this, and she provides a very interesting perspective, coming from another school, and knowing, we have our standard at Garfield. I was telling somebody the other day that we've had a decade now of at least 15 wins, 10 straight years. You go back 11 years, we were 5-18. You go back 12 years, we were 1-20. So outside of those two, then the streak started. And so a decade of at least 15. So for a lot of our players, they don't know anything other than what we've done. And for her to step into that and see, okay, this is how it gets done. This is what needs to get done. She's a player that her whole career she's seen double and triple teams. So late game situation, okay, they're going to double her. All right, I've been here before. But now I've got, a couple people I can pass it to that, can finish the job. And so I think for her, just having that excitement and really, like, the thing I loved about having her around this year was she was just as excited when people were making plays, as she was. Super humble about even hitting the 1,000, super humble about scoring 32, having a bunch of assists. But like, you can watch her on film when other people are making baskets. You see a little fist pump from her. You see that joy from her, and even sometimes where we were able to put some other people in the game, and so she's sitting with the group. They were cheering just as hard for that group as that group was for them on the floor. And I think that was something that was really special about her this year.
Let's talk about your bracket. Is where you're in tournament time. You're in Division 3. You got the 2 seed in the district, which means you were able to take your own kind of bracket and be the top seed in it. You have kind of 2 league games waiting in the wings with Camel first, and then if you're able to win that game, Champion with the bye. Do you like playing league teams in a tournament, or would you rather play the ones that really don't know you and bring a little bit more of unfamiliarity to the floor?
I think a couple of us had kind of talked about before the bracket, and I think the consensus was because of how our tier was, nobody wanted to play anybody 3 times. I don't care who it was. Nobody wanted to play a league team 3 times just because the familiarity, and just you want to see tournament time. It's kind of nice to see somebody new. When I coached boys in the other side of the state, we didn't our sectional was small. It was 8 teams, and then one got out, and then district was still the 4 team. But the way our district and sectional went, we might not see a non-conference opponent in the tournament until the regional. Like, it was just we played everybody in our conference only once at that point, but it was just, tournament time is kind of neat to travel, to see somebody new. Now with the way the brackets are, you do have that opportunity to play a conference foe a 3rd time. And I can't imagine, if it would have matched up, us playing Crestview for a 3rd time, or us playing Brookfield for a 3rd time, which is a possibility down the road. Playing Champion a 3rd time, playing Campbell a 3rd time. You got that familiarity. You got to find something. You got to find a wrinkle somewhere, because we both know what we're going to do. With Champion, Mike and I have coached against each other now for 7, 8 years, going back to district play back in 15 or something like that, I think. And so we're familiar with what each other want to do, defensively, offensively. So you got to find a little twist in there somewhere, and hope that it's just enough to get you through to the next level.
We're keeping the tradition going of Garfield and Champion playing in the tournament. I mean,
Yep.
We got to keep it up. Now, it won't
always
be for
always playing for something, whether it be in the sectional level or the district championship. It's always at some level, yes.
But I felt like you just had to keep that going. But there is some unfamiliarity on that other end of the bracket if you're able to get through Campbell and Champion with Villa Anna, St. Joe's, and Kirtland. I know you probably haven't looked too far ahead. That's 2 games. You don't want to do that as a coach. But do you know anything about either one of those two teams? Because they're both non-YSN schools as well. So can you share anything about one of those about both those teams and what they might
Yeah, I
bring to
mean,
the table in a possible semifinal?
yeah, I mean, I think when you look at like Kirtland, Kirtland's that just traditional sports school that they're
Mhm.
going to be good in everything. They're going to compete. Their kids are going to compete. They're going to be no matter what sport. They're going to be well coached. They're going to be well skilled, and they're not going to beat themselves. I know they're young, but other than that, I know a couple players here and there, but not a lot. With St. Joe being new to the district, they're kind of an unknown. I do know they have some skill. I know they like the full court press. I know they got a freshman who's really, really good. And that's a player that has to get watched. But they're a team that they're going to run and gun and get up and down the floor and press you into submission. So if we're able to get through games 1 and 2, either one of those two matchups is going to be a good one. And even going back to with Champion, you look at the 2 times we played them already this year. I mean, the one at our place was a dogfight. Bella went off against us, and then the second time, we had a lead, and then they clawed themselves right back into it. And same with those girls; they're not going to quit. Watching them last night with Waterloo, they hung around, and were really in it until about the last 2 minutes when Waterloo was able to hit a couple shots. So, it is tourney time is weird. Anything can happen. You don't know how the calls are going to go. You don't know. I mean, I'm glad we're playing at home, but you just never know.
Thing that makes Champions scary is they're constantly getting more and more healthy. So you're
Yes.
constantly seeing more
Yeah.
people pop up on that roster,
And every
and they're
and each night they got a different guard who gets hot. I mean,
right.
they've got 3 guards, and 2 of the 3 are hot every night. You just have no clue what 2 of them it's going to be. And like you said, they are getting healthier. They are getting more comfortable with the stuff that they're starting to do. They've been doing all year, and their shooting will keep them in any game. I mean, that's the thing. And traditionally, you look at when we've played them, it's a 2 to 3 possession game, no matter what the level is. So it's not going to be easy for either of us.
Starting to be the champion that people kind of thought they would be coming into this season before the injuries, which
Yeah, I
everyone
mean
kind
they're
of
going to
assumed.
be. I mean, you look at what they return. I mean, you look at the league next year, obviously with what Crestview returns, but you look at what Champion returns. They're going to be right up in that race. They're going to be a real juggernaut next year.
Now, as we look at the bottom half of the bracket, which is teams that you won't have to deal with until an eventual district championship, if you're lucky enough to get down there. But you have some teams that came down from Division 2 that popped into your district with Lakeview and Poland,
Yeah.
both coming into Division 3 this year. Obviously, Brookfield's in there too, with Mooney and Liberty and Pymatuning Valley. When you see those teams on the other end of the bracket and you start thinking about like what your bracket looks like, what were some of your thoughts when those teams picked your end of the district?
One of the things when the draw comes, you get the results on Saturday afternoon. Usually, you get to see, okay, what number am I, and then you start thinking like, okay, it's the beauty there's a beauty and a curse of being that high seed, because the beauty is you get to kind of pick your place, but then you got to sit and wait back to see who wants to come after you, and you kind of wonder like, okay, who thinks they can get us, and that's kind of where you kind of look at that motivation, where it's okay, when your name's sitting on that line, how quickly do they press that button to say we want this line, or how long do they think, do they take the whole 3 minutes, or within the first 15 seconds do they say we want this team? And there were a couple of those when draw came out. There were a couple of people that right away said I want this line, and there were a couple teams that sat there and really tried to pick the best path for their team. And so you tuck that in the back of your mind. You keep that as some motivation. But, I think I think it was 7 teams that moved out of the district from last year, either went up to D2 or down to D4 out of the 23. So, I'm not good at math, but it's about a third, I think, of the teams that are new. And so now you've got some new opponents. I still can't figure out how some of them are D3, but I don't count bodies, so I don't understand that one either. But at the same time, it's kind of neat to have some new teams in there that you kind of, do some homework on and find out about them. But that bottom half is loaded. The teams that you mentioned there with Brookfield, PV, and Poland and Mooney, and they're going to be there's some teams that I mean, honestly, it's kind of a toss up as to who's going to come out of that. I mean, I know Poland kind of seems to be that wild card. You know, I kind of think they're that favorite to come out of there. They're a solid team that has a good path to get through. But you've got some teams in there that they get hot, you know, just like against us. You know, anybody can get hot, can beat you on a night. So you got to be prepared come tourney time.
Yeah, when you were getting ready for the draw and you kind of were trying to think about what teams you might have to deal with, you had to assume that whether you were the 2 or the 3, with Laurel being the 1 seed, you were probably going to be in the harder district or the harder
Oh,
bracket because a lot of
I
good
honestly
teams.
thought 2, 3, and 4 were all going to come over
Right.
the same side. Like I thought, you know, Laurel's going to have their side, because it kind of happened that way in soccer. I think soccer had 28 that were in the district, and you know, team 1 went here, and then I think it was like 2 through 7 went on the other. It was some weird combination that went away from them. But yeah, I mean, obviously, you look at Laurel's roster, you look at their schedule. People are going to do everything they can to stay away from them. And then, you know, coming over to our side. But I was surprised who kind of went into what area, who went into what line. But yeah, I mean, I really, you know, it's fun. It's things that you pay attention to. You kind of make little mental notes of, you know, who wants to play who and how it's all going to work out. But then, you know, it's like, okay, you're going to play Laurel. Well, you're going to either play them at the district level or that's your regional matchup, because the two brackets cross bracket for regional. So, you know, somewhere along the line, if you want to get out, you got to play them.
Right. What would it mean to you to win a district championship this year and get to Cuyahoga Falls after all the stuff in the offseason, all the doubts the outsiders had on you guys, the things that you lost last year? What would it mean to this program to, you know, kind of prove that they can not rebuild and reload and just get right back to winning a district championship?
I think that's, you know, that's the pipe dream. That's, you know, number 1 on our goal sheet. That was even ahead of the league title, believe it or not. You know, that's become the goal. Whereas, you know, like I said, a decade ago, it was just winning a tournament game. Now it's, you know, trying to get back to that regional level. And at tournament time, you know, it's fast. You've got to be prepared. You can't have a bad night. But with this group, it would be nice to cement their legacy. You know, we in 17, when that senior class graduated, you know, the 18 class, it was, how are you going to be remembered? You know, they made it to the district level, but won a league title. You know, with the 22 class, you know, they got to regionals twice, which had never been done. And so with this class, it's like, okay, well, they did it twice. You've got a chance to do it 3, which has obviously never been done either. And so how are you going to write your history book? Like what page, what's going to be the final page? What are we going to turn to and see? I mean, they've already cemented the most regular season wins since 1988, which was tremendous. You know, we had a chance to break it, but we lost a game along the way. So we only played 21 this year, but yeah, I mean, it's all about the legacy. It's all about, you know, refocusing our goals. You know, after we lost to Crestview, you know, with the league, it's like, okay, now we got to refocus. What do you want to get to? And it's like I told them in the locker room, okay, this goal is crossed off. What's the next goal? But then more importantly, what are you willing to give up to get that goal? Because it isn't just going to happen. We're the name that everybody wants to beat on our side. You know, we're the 2. We've got the target. It doesn't matter if you're the 23 or you're the 3 seed. They all want to beat us, and it would make their season to knock us out. And so that's what we're dealing with. And so with the girls, it would just be nice to give them that. It's a joy you can't explain unless you're in the moment. You know, they talk about people who win different levels and they're like, you know, what does it feel like? It's just really hard to explain it unless you're in it. You know, you can see the joy, but the inner joy, almost the relief that you feel would just be tremendous. And it's a new site. You know, going to Struthers is a new place. That's going to be kind of neat for us. We've been going to Lakeview for the last, you know, 4 or 5 years now. And so, you know, going over to Struthers will be a neat facility to see and a beautiful place to play some basketball.
You got to try the popcorn. The Fieldhouse popcorn. I'm telling you,
I've actually heard that from more than one person now.
it hits different. It hits different. It sounds crazy, but it hits different.
Yeah.
So,
And
Coach,
even with that, they wouldn't tell us where we were going until like last week. You know, it was just like they had the two brackets, and I understand, you know, Lakeview's in the district, so you want to see what's going on here. But like, you know, everybody was asking because, you know, with the bracket, people wanted to kind of choose, you know, geographically what's kind of closer to our school. And last week, or actually, I think after the boys draw was Sunday, so I think Monday, this week Monday, they released all the district sites because they even did it over to D1 with I think it was the Brunswick and Medina district, or Brunswick Medina district. I think they released that on Monday too. So I don't know. Like, if you don't want them to host a home game, then put them in a different district. I don't understand how that all works sometimes, but
Right.
And I know not everybody wants to host, but at the same time, like, just flip-flop things. I don't know.
But then it's weird because they're okay with teams hosting a regional in softball. It happens. We saw it happen. So it's like, hey, but in basketball, let's just not have that happen.
Yeah, it's
weird.
It's OHSA, man. You gotta love it.
Gotta love it, Coach. We love you for coming on. We thank you so much for the time and talking a little bit more Garfield basketball. We wish you the best of luck to the tournament run, and hopefully you'll go far enough that we can talk to you again about some championships.
Yeah, hopefully we get to cover us for quite a while. We're going to do our best to keep you busy for a couple weeks. So
let's do it, Coach. We'll see you soon, and thanks again for the time.
All right. Thanks, Anthony.